I'd like to start this evening with a prayer, walking the good red road. O Great Spirit, whose voice I hear in the winds, and whose breath gives life to all the world, hear me. I come before you, one of your many children. I'm small and weak. I need your strength and wisdom. Let me walk in beauty and make my eyes ever behold the red and purple sunset. Make my hands respect the things you have made, my ears sharp to hear your voice. Make me wise so that I may know things you have taught my people, the lesson you have hidden in every rock and leaf. I seek strength, not to be superior to my brothers, but to be able to fight my greatest enemy, myself. Make me ever ready to come to you with clean hands and straight eyes. So when life fades as a fading sunset, my spirit will come to you without shame. That was written by Chief Yellow Lark, a Lakota Indian. What is a Scout's own? Scouting has always respected different belief systems, and each Scout finds their own path to worshiping the Creator. To quote John Thurman, the camp chief of the Gilwell Park International Training Center, at the beginning of organized World Scouting, the International Conference in 1924 said, "The Scout movement has no tendency to weaken, but on the contrary, to strengthen individual religious beliefs. The Scout law requires that a Scout shall truly and sincerely practice their religion." I have sympathy and understanding for the Scout who believes in Scouting, but their personal religion is still growing. I have always welcomed the spirituality, active seeker who, in the process of helping to run a Scout troop, finds the right spiritual road for themselves. I have said that we must strengthen our beliefs, but I want to appeal too that we strengthen our tolerance toward other faiths. None has a monopoly on truth. Tolerance does not mean weakness or weakening of your own faith, for it says in effect, "This is what I believe, but I respect your right to believe something different." That is not the same as to tolerate the right to be spiritually lazy or to believe in nothing. There is now a poverty of spirituality, possibly greater than in any other time in Scouting's history. No nation can afford to live on the spiritual capital garnered by its forebears. A group of students were asked to list what they thought were the present 7 wonders of the world. Though there were some disagreements, the following received the most votes: Egypt's Great Pyramids, the Taj Mahal, the Grand Canyon, the Panama Canal, the Empire State Building, St. Peter's Basilica, and China's Great Wall. While gathering the votes, the teacher noted that one student had not finished her paper yet. So she asked the girl if she was having trouble with her list. The girl replied, "Yes, a little. I couldn't quite make up my mind because there were so many." The teacher said, "Well, tell us what you have, and maybe we can help." The girl hesitated, then said, "I think the 7 wonders of the world are to see, to hear, to touch, to taste, to feel, to laugh, and to love." The room was so quiet, you could have heard a pin drop. But things we overlook as simple and ordinary, and that we take for granted, are truly wondrous. It's a gentle reminder that the most precious things in life cannot be built by the hands of man or bought by man. I'd like to read you a little poem called "Making a Difference." One day a man was walking along the beach, as was his habit before beginning his work. He was walking along the shore, and as he looked down the beach, he saw a boy dancing along the water's edge. He smiled to himself to think of someone who would dance the day. He began to walk faster to catch up. As he got closer, he saw that the boy wasn't dancing at all, but instead was picking up something and gently throwing it into the ocean. The man greeted the boy and asked him what he was doing. The young man replied that he was throwing a starfish back into the ocean. The man was amused and asked, "Why? Why are you throwing starfish back into the ocean?" The boy looked at the older gentleman and replied that the previous night's storm had washed the starfish onto the beach, and that they would die if they didn't get back into the ocean. Being a practical sort, the man pointed out that there were miles, just miles, of beach strewn with starfish, and that he could not hope to make a difference. The boy reached down, grabbed another starfish, and tossed it into the water and said, "I made a difference to that one." I'd like to read you a prayer called the Prayer of Cyrus Brown. The proper way for a man to pray, said Deacon Samuel Keyes, and the only proper attitude is down upon his knees. No, I should say the way to pray, said Reverend Dr. Wise, is standing straight with outstretched arms and rapt and upturned eyes. Oh, no, 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 said Elder Slow. Such posture is too proud. A man should pray with his eyes fast closed and his head contritely bowed. It seems to me his hand should be austerely clasped in front, with both thumbs pointing toward the ground, said Reverend Dr. Blunt. Last year, I fell in Smitty's well, head first, said Cyrus Brown, with both my heels a-sticking up and my head a-pointed down. And I make a prayer right then and there, the best prayer I ever said, the prayingest prayer I ever prayed, a-standing on my head. This just goes to show that the format of our prayer is less important than the sincerity of our prayer. According to your faith, would you please join me in a moment of silent prayer? Did Erica come? Thank you. And at this time, I would like to invite Erica Jones from Troop 543. She and I are going to do a responsive reading. I'm going to say the Scout Law while she responds with some kind of a reading from a different religion. Erica, I hope you are ready. A Scout is trustworthy.
O Lord, I have trusted in thee, and I will trust in thee forever. I will not put my trust in the arm of flesh, for I know that cursed is he that putteth his trust in the arm of flesh.
A Scout is loyal.
Therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, for as much as ye know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord.
A Scout is helpful.
And behold, I tell you these things that ye may learn wisdom, that ye may learn that when ye are in the service of your fellow beings, ye are only in the service of your God.
A Scout is friendly.
May all beings regard me with friendly eyes. May I look upon all creatures with friendly eyes. With a friendly eye may we regard each other.
A Scout is courteous.
When a greeting is offered, you meet it with a greeting still. More courteous, or at least of equal courtesy, God takes careful account of all things.
A Scout is kind.
Someone said, "What do you think of repaying evil with kindness?" The reply was given, "Then what are you going to repay kindness with? Repay kindness with kindness, but repay kindness with justice."
A Scout is obedient.
Obey my voice, and I will be your God, and you will be my people, that it may be well with you.
A Scout is cheerful.
A cheerful heart is good medicine, but a downcast spirit dries up the bones.
A Scout is thrifty.
The wise man saves for the future, but the foolish man spends whatever he gets.
A Scout is brave.
Be strong and courageous. Do not tremble or be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go.
A Scout is clean.
Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me.
A Scout is reverent.
Look to each day with clear intention. Choose to see the Creator in all that is around you. Thank the Creator daily.
Thank you, Erica. And now I would like to also invite Emma Rose from Fruit 543 to do a prayer for us. Emma?
Lord, bless those who melt cold hearts and mold them into new warm ones. Bless those who also help mold new bodies and new minds in your name. Let us remember those who teach us. But among all the obstacles that you have set on this earth to help us, we ask for your help. When we face deceit and dishonesty, help us be trustworthy, O Lord. When hypocrisy and faithlessness are among the obstacles, make us loyal, O Lord. If disregard and disrespect for other people kick in, and the slightest hint of materialism prevails, remind us to be helpful, O Lord. When facing isolation and loneliness, help us overcome this isolation and loneliness by being friendly, O Lord. In a worldly atmosphere of ill manner, let us be courteous, O Lord. In a situation where we face brutality and crudeness, let us be kind, O Lord. Even through both disregards to the law and rule, scoffing are common in everyday life. Let us be obedient to the word of the law and rule, O Lord. When it seems that the world is stacked up against us, and when others grumble and grouch, make us cheerful, O Lord. In an environment blighted by waste and extravagance, let us be thrifty, O Lord. When confronted with danger and temptations, give us the bravery to face these dangers and temptations, O Lord. When we are greeted by a polluted and filthy environment, help us be clean, O Lord. While impiety and irreligion confront us, make us reverent, O Lord.
Thank you very much, Emma. Before I have a closing prayer, I would like to thank the Ogden Trombone Choir for our beautiful music of tonight. And as our closing prayer, I would like to state, and now, may the great Scoutmaster of all great Scouts be with us until we can all meet again. Now it is my pleasure, my great pleasure, to introduce a very good friend of mine and your keynote speaker for this evening, Mr. Charles Dahlquist. Charles, it's all yours.
Thank you all for being here tonight. As I have looked at the list of all that are there and looked at your faces, I've thought how many of you I love, and I'm grateful for your efforts in scouting. Thank you for being here tonight on a Friday night. Most of us know it as a date night. It's also an evening of a fairly important football game, and for you being here tonight, that shows where you are. I think not only of who you are, but of the rising generation that you represent. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be with you. I can't think of this meeting of good people and understanding our duty to God and having a 10 Commandment walk without thinking about what we've experienced the last little while. I left my home just a few minutes ago, and we try to keep a peaceful home. But you know, every time we turn on the nightly news, we're reminded that we're living in a time of commotion and we're living in a time of uncertainty. And yet there are certain milestones that are important for all of us to be able to help us to get back on track and to help us to become what we can be and to help us to bring the peace into the world, at least our part of the world that we can influence. It was not long ago, actually, it was 15 years ago, when we were at the 2005 National Jamboree. I had just been called as the new Young Men General President within just about a year before. This was my first Jamboree since 1977, and I was asked to be an assistant head chaplain. And we had just had an experience with an individual who was extremely disrespectful to one of our Catholic chaplains. And we brought him over to the tent. And to be very candid with you, we were having some fairly straightforward discussion about the fact that we expect better treatment of our chaplains, and those are my brethren. I don't care whether they're Catholic or Muslim or Jewish or what they are. They were our people, and they deserved respect. And I'll never forget, as we were having that discussion, the telephone rang. Chip Turner went to the phone, and I remember him saying, 2 are down, possibly 4. We'll be right there. Well, some of you may remember that this was the evening. It was on a Monday evening as the scouts were coming into the Jamboree. The scouts from Alaska were setting up their area, and they had an independent contractor that was setting up their tent, had put up the tent, could not get the main tent pole in. And as they tried to push that in, and I know we have one individual on the call who will never forget this. His son had just pulled him away. Kendall had just pulled away from the pole because there wasn't enough room. And Larry Call and 3 or 4 others pushed that pole into place. And as they did, it hit a high voltage wire. And it had an impact on the rest of our Jamboree. Now, if you'll hold on just a second. I've just been told by my note that I've got 20%. So, Jacques, I'm going to talk fast and we'll deal with what we can. But at any rate, we had several that lost their lives that night as a result of Kendall's very brave action, looking down and seeing Larry just lying there and doing what I don't think we'd have the courage to do. He grabbed his arm and just pulled him off that pole. And I'll never forget the rest of that Jamboree. We had chaplains that were getting very little sleep. I can't say enough for Paul Moffat and Todd Moody as they ministered to those individuals. But what I really want to talk about is it's amazing the fact that we had Catholic chaplains who were ministering to Latter-day Saint scouts. We had Latter-day Saints that were ministering to Jewish scouts. And I had one from the community, or from the Church of Christ, and he was at the hospital, and he says, Charles, these boys are not of my faith. And he says, they need somebody to pray with them. And I said, Kent, I said, just pray with them. Give them some strength. And he said, can I do that? And I said, sure you can. And so he did. And those lives of those boys were blessed. I was getting ready to go over. Actually, Larry may not know this, but I was going over to go and see Larry, and I was taking his two boys with me. He was in the hospital. We didn't know what condition he was in. We didn't know what we'd find. And I talked to the chaplain, who was a military lieutenant colonel, and I said, Colonel, we're heading over to see Larry Call, and we just want you to know that we're going there. And he put his hand on my shoulder, and I thought he was just going to say, well, travel safely. He bowed his head, and he gave me a blessing. And, you know, I've never had a blessing by a Protestant chaplain before, but it gave me the most wonderful feeling of knowing that we were all one. And, there are a lot of messages that come out of a jamboree, but we were one. President Monson had said something to me. He said, look, Charles, he said, a lot of these good people have spent decades getting to the national level where they are, and all of a sudden, in one day, you are there and you're on the National Executive Committee. Just be at peace. In time, they will accept you. And, you know, I learned that in times of difficulty and in times of service, it's amazing how quickly we come together. And we were of one heart. And I just think about the feelings that I have for Reverend Chip Turner and for Rabbi Peter Hyman and for others that we served with on that jamboree. And we'll never be the same as a result of that. As a result, I have often thought, if we're really serious about world peace, we probably ought to start at a Scout Jamboree. I have been to a number of World Scout Jamborees since that national jamboree, and I have watched Jewish scouts camping next to Islamic troops, and at times when we were in the midst of very difficult situations between those countries, these scouts were trading patches and trading uniform parts and sharing food with each other. And I have watched some absolute amazing service. At that first jamboree, I really didn't know what to expect. And so we got there on a Friday. This was before all of this happened. And I met a fellow by the name of Rabbi Joe Prauser. I didn't know Rabbi Prauser very well at that time, but he said, he was very kind to me. And I said, why don't you come to our sacrament meeting? This was for the staff. And he said, well, I'd be glad to. So he came, and during the sacrament meeting, I just felt a strong feeling to ask him to just say a few words. He said, I'd be glad to. So he stood up and he said, I have loved the Latter-day Saints for a lot of years. He said, I was on a wood badge course years ago, and I was getting ready to lead a Jewish Shabbat service. And the quartermaster came around. It happened to be a Latter-day Saint. It was I think it was a jamboree, because he says I was the Jewish rabbi for the Western region for some reason. And he said, the quartermaster said, Rabbi, are you all set? He says, I've got prayer books. He says, I've got prayer shawls. I've got a place to meet, everything I need. He says, if I had a tabernacle, he says, it'd be like my home synagogue. and this quartermaster said, well, tell me what a tabernacle is. And he told him that that's where he put the Torah, and that's what we have in at home. And he said, oh, and he showed him about the size. He says the next day he showed up and he had crafted a Torah, a camp Torah out of plywood, and had the hinges and everything else. And he said, you know, in the years that passed, I've taken that on a number of Scout events. I've taken that on family outings, and I keep thinking of the wonderful relationship that we built at that Scout event. You know, that's what this is all about. We're living in a time where people are hurting, and yet through our associations, as well as teaching the rising generation, we can lift more than we think. I love the thought that Marion D. Hanks gave a number of years ago when he said, every human being is trying to say something to others trying to cry out, I am alive, notice me, speak to me, confirm that I am important, that I matter. We have a wonderful opportunity in our scouting activities to be able to associate with each other, to learn more about each other. And I have found that peace comes through understanding. I've always loved the Trust Award for venturing, because part of the Trust Award is not only understanding your own religion better and delving into the doctrines and the practices and understanding your own religion, but it's also understanding the religion of others. It's a wonderful award. We have, as many of you know, here in the Crossroads of the West Council, things have been a little different since January 1st of 2020, as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints discontinued its role as a charter partner with the Boy Scouts of America. And we have a new Vanguard Award, which replaces the On My Honor Award. And one of those requirements, which is an elective, says learn about the beliefs and practices of a world religion other than the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You may learn about the religion from that religion's webpage or by talking to a friend who is a member of that religion who is in your school, troop, or neighborhood. After you've completed your study, in your journal, identify those things that the religion has in common with your faith. 2, how the two religions differ in their doctrines, beliefs, and practices. And 3, how understanding information about other religions will help you to serve a mission. Now, I have my yarmulke that I take to every scout gathering, and I would probably have it in my pocket on a Friday night if this were not a virtual walk as I have done. But I have these wonderful, wonderful memories of associating shoulder to shoulder with individuals of other faiths. This is a time of conflict. It's a time of commotion. It's a time of uncertainty, and yet the certainties of the Scout Oath and Law, the certainty of our faith and our doctrines and our beliefs, the certainty of the God that we all worship, and those doctrines and those reassurance and the plan of salvation and the truths of eternity that we receive in our various denominations give us peace and give us hope and give us comfort in times of uncertainty. It also gives us an opening and an opportunity to listen to the Holy Spirit and those feelings within that will help us to know what we need to do, to whom we need to minister, what youth particularly need to be lifted, and even those individuals in our neighborhood. And so as I conclude tonight, number one, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your service in scouting. Thank you for the impact that you've made in the lives of the rising generation. Thank you for your friendship. But I challenge each of us, including myself, in these next months as we continue to deal with this pandemic, to look how we can lift those around us, to be sensitive to the promptings that come, and to be able to lift. If you haven't seen what's the name of the movie? It's with Tom Hanks on Fred Rogers. It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. If you'll notice, Fred Rogers has a little book, a little prayer book of individuals that need his help and his prayers and his ministering. I have found that that's not a bad thing for me as well, and I encourage you to do the same. Thank you for all that you do. God bless you in your efforts to strengthen the rising generation, to build strength and to build faith in them, faith in the living God, faith in themselves, faith in their families, and the ability to reach out even at their young age. There has never been a time, I think, in the history of this world when we have needed men and women like you who can lift the rising generation. They need us. May God bless us and strengthen us that we may be there for them. Thank you, and bless each of you.
Thank you very much, Charles. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. We will conclude. We will once again start up tomorrow morning, 8:30 sharp. We will be starting out at the Salvation Army And we will be then ending up right across the street from there at the Jewish synagogue at Bris Shalem in Ogden, Utah. So good night, everyone. Have a good night. Hope to see you again early in the morning.